Hi, Daph.
Hello, Mother.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Super great.
Super great, super dandy, super swell, super fly, super fine.
All of those things, yes.
Cool.
Check, and check.
Double check for yes.
Double check for yes. All right. Are you ready? Because as we've discussed, no one gives a fuck.
Sorry, I had to burp. Yeah, I'm ready.
That's sexy.
Yes, I'm ready.
At least it wasn't the alphabet.
No, I don't burp the alphabet anymore.
No, that's
I used to.
Great.
I don't anymore.
That's great.
I told I burped up alphabet soup, then I stopped.
Gross. Okay, moving on. So we discussed last time Shrunken Heads and Daphne. Oh, it's not real. It's not real. And it is real. And we looked.
It's real.
It's real that we saw that it was real.
You didn't include any shrunken heads in the post for Ed Gein.
Yeah, but I can for this one.
Okay, well, you didn't in the Ed Gein episode.
No, but that's just because we talked about...
No, but.
Okay. But I did include some other random things, like the gloves, the hand gloves, and the utensils made from bones. That was fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were a handful of the things that weren't destroyed in the fire. But anyway.
Probably because they were in evidence. Probably because they were in evidence.
Yeah, already, before they were going to get auctioned off.
Creepy.
So this is from the Connecticut Science Center. So it's a blog, the official blog of the Connecticut Science Center. It has the complete history of shrunken heads and the history of the tribal practice from Tanzania holds great symbolic and spiritual meaning to the people who made them. The practice originated...
Tanzania.
Huh?
I love Tanzania. The air there's fresh. I stepped one foot in it.
Yeah. The practice originated in the Amazonian rainforest situated between northern Peru and eastern Ecuador.
We also love the Amazon.
I love the Amazon, except for all the bugs. This region of the world is where the practice originates from. And so that's where it's, a lot of the shrunken heads are found in this area. And some Indians, I'm going to fuck this name up.
Try it.
Hiveron, because it starts with a J, but it's Latin. So Hiveron Indians fought over land, resources, and hunting grounds, leading to man conflicts. And after defeating their enemies in battles, they would decapitate them and bring the heads back to the settlement to make them into santasas, which is what I meant to say in the beginning and not Tanzania.
What?
Creating a santasa.
So Tanzania, the African nation, has absolutely nothing to do with this.
No. I just put that
As you just let me pop off about how much I'm like, ooh, I loved Kenya. I want to go to Zanzibar, all the things.
No, it's Sansa. It's T-S-A-N-T-S-A. So you guys can tell me how I'm butchering it because I know I am. But anyway, so they would bring the heads back to the settlement to make them into those things. And the process was passed down.
To make them into Tanzania.
Yeah.
The country.
It was passed down through generations and it's no longer practiced, but it holds great cultural significance. And so this is how we get there, right? So,
and
don't shrink my head because my voice is all fucked up like it always is when we're going to record. So doing this process of shrinking the heads and of the slain individuals, the battling tribes, right? This would give the person additional power and protection against suffering the same fate. So like if I cut off your head and I shrink it, I get your power too.
Okay,
yay.
Shrink my head.
So how the heads are shrunk. The shrinking process begins with sewing the eyelids shut.
Okay,
and
ow.
Well, if you're decapitated, you don't feel it, I'm guessing. So you sew the eyelids shut and you skewer the mouth closed with wooden pegs. And then next, you put the head in a boiling pot of water for 1 to 2 hours. And then...
Like it's boiling the whole time?
This is boiling the whole time.
Won't it evaporate?
This is how the head would shrink and required a great deal of precise timing and care for those creating it. If left for too long, the head would effectively lose its hair. And if taken out too early, it would lose its structural integrity. So once the head was removed from the boiling pot, it would have shrunk down considerably. Like when you put a wool sweater in the washing machine and it shrinks. Like it was my size, now it fits Barbie.
Or you just made me lose my train of thought. I was going to say something else. Oh, I was going to say you put it into an ice bath and when it comes out like an egg.
There you go.
Stops the cooking process.
So the head was shrink down considerably compared to what the normal size was. The skin would also appear darker and more rubbery in texture, and the skin would be turned inside out to remove any of the remaining soft tissue with a knife. And this was followed by Reese
Witherspoon?
Yes. The skin into the shrinking process, and hot stones and sand were placed inside the head to make it contract from the inside. So they put more heat inside so that it continues to shrink. And then the skin is also tanned on the inside to preserve it. And then after you get the size you want, whatever size of head you're going for.
Yeah.
Additional hot stones will be placed on the outside of the head, and this seals the face and the shaped features. And then the skin is rubbed with charcoal ash to darken the complexion. And that's the people who created the shrunken heads. They're calling something else. That TANS, the shrunken heads.
The TANS.
TSANTSAS. Believe
I have to see this word. I can't. My dyslexia won't let me spell it in my brain. I'm like alphabet soup. I'm like, how do you arrange that?
Basically. So they believed that if they did all of these things, right, and they darkened the skin, that it would keep the vengeful spirit of the individual from seeping out and causing suffering. And the final product was placed over a fire to harden up.
Fuck, I feel like the spirit should go cause some suffering. Like they shrunk your head.
Right.
And they're like, oh, let me preserve your head forever. Fuck you, it killed you. But I want to look at your face every day.
Right. Just in a smaller version.
Right. I want to look at a little baby version of your head.
So then the final product was placed over a fire to harden up and darken in complexion even further. Then the wooden pegs would be removed and strings, and then they put in strings to lash them together. And the last step in the process, this sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it does. This should have been a whole episode.
No, not really. We're only 8 minutes in.
We're only 8 minutes into the disturbing fact.
Blah, 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 blah. The last step in the process involved creating the band by which the warrior would wear the head around their waist, and a hole was created at the top of the head with a string passed through it so it would be worn properly.
So they're just like rocking them like on their belts like a charm. Mm-hmm. Here's my shrunken head charm.
Right. So, yeah.
Wowza. That's a lot of yuck.
A lot of yuck.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking like...
So thank you to Matthew Russell for writing this blog about the history of shrunken heads and giving us the information that we needed, considering Daphne didn't even think it was real.
Oh, well, I didn't think it was real because it's like, who's sick enough to do this? But now we know who was sick enough to do this.
Yeah, except for it wasn't
Amazonian people.
It wasn't really sick. It was... it was for their own protection and their beliefs.
Yeah, but they're like, I agree with that. They're cultural beliefs, and that's fine because every culture has stuff like that,
Right, but when Ed Gein does it to his own mom, then
it's
it
a little
becomes
sick.
Sick, yes.
That's when it's sick.
Word,
and that they wear them
like
little belt charms, like purse charms. Like
that's
I
like
have
a warning.
That's like a gibbet on my Crocs.
Yeah, but that's like a warning. Like,
but
hey,
if I had
motherfucker,
shrunken heads coming out of my Crocs, that would be weird.
Then I would be scared of you, and that would work because then I'd be like, hey, motherfucker,
and I
don't fuck with me, or I'll cut your head off and shrink it. See this charm?
See this charm? See this gibbet? I don't like that they're like, oh, we need to darken it so the spirits don't escape and cause problems in our lives. You have no right to tell the spirit not to come cause problems in your life. You just fucking killed them. That spirit should do whatever spirit wants to do.
As I see it, that's not cool of you to prevent vengeful spirits.
Yeah, no, it isn't. Right. Especially when you're the one killing them.
True.
I feel like they have every right to be vengeful.
Yeah. But, but I don't know. It could have been the other way around. Whoever was wearing the gibbet, as you say.
Gibbet is the croc charm. Those are what croc charms are called.
The head could have been on the other belt.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Shrink or be shrunken.
Shrink or be shrunk. Wear charms or be shrunk.
All right. Well, we should
That's
probably.
funny. I'm just thinking I should cut off some Barbie heads and start walking around like little belt charms.
Dip them in ashes from the fireplace first, though.
Remember when we just went to that antique mall and there was the Barbie things? That's like what that reminds me of.
Yeah.
The Barbie artwork, if you will.
Yeah.
Dark work.
Dark Barbie artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
It was.
I'm going to start chopping heads off Barbies and wearing them on my belt and be like, this could be you.
Back
But I
up,
won't do it to you. Let him go from the fender of my car. See this? The heads of my enemies. This was the last person who rode my ass.
I love it. That I can get behind.
All right. Okay.
What do you have, Daph?
So we wanted to do Alcatraz and talk about Alcatraz, but Alcatraz is going to be a very long episode. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background for the moment on Alcatraz.
Well, that's what I was going to do, Alcatraz, when I did the episode on Albin Carpus, which I think I said in the beginning that I was like just looking up factoids about Alcatraz because I was going to do an episode about Alcatraz.
Right. I'm super interested in that. So you could still do it. I don't have to do it. One of us should still do it, though.
One of us should do it for sure. But then I came across Albin Carpus, who I'd never heard of, who was the longest serving prisoner.
Still my favorite episode.
Who was the longest serving prisoner at Alcatraz. And it was a great story. It was. I loved it.
Yeah,
but
it was
apparently it has
the
like
Wild
7
Wild
listens.
West.
So it's
And-
definitely not in our top 50.
Yeah, definitely not
don't
even
think
in our
so.
top 75 probably, and we only have 72. But
Sad day, because that's a good one.
I love it. That one made me laugh so hard when we were recording it. I'm like, oh, the Cub Scouts. How do you know if everyone's always changing their names if you don't ever really know anyone else's names? And there's like 46 of you. You need to do a head count.
Present.
Right? Where's Highland Cow?
Or that one guy with the,
Yo, whiteboard.
what was their names were like Tall Head Mike and I don't know, I can't remember. But they had weird
Yeah.
long neck or gooseneck or.
No, you're thinking of Crane Neck.
Crane Neck.
You're thinking of Crane Neck, and that's from the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yes.
Yes, that's what you're thinking of. But
But
yeah,
same
Crane
thing.
Neck. Yeah, what if they were like, yo, Crane Neck, and he's like, my name's really Jim. And he's like, oh, I didn't realize y'all had a nickname for me. I didn't really realize I look like a crane neck.
Like, fuck, what are you guys saying behind my back if this is what you're saying to my face?
Right.
To my neck.
What are you saying to my neck? Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
A little just mini snippet on
Snippet.
little snippet gibbet
Or snippet.
on Alcatraz. So it's called The Rock, and it's
Not
an
to be
island.
confused with Dwayne Johnson.
Not to be confused with The Rock. This is just The Rock.
Different.
He is The Rock.
This is The Rock.
Yes, The Rock. And it's on an island. That's what they nickname it, The Rock. But the island's also called Alcatraz, and that's what the prison was called. In the middle of the San Francisco Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the world's most secure prison. And it actually began housing inmates since the Civil War. But then it closed, and then it reopened in 1934 until it reclosed again in 1963. And I don't think it's open anymore, even for tourism.
Which is so sad.
Yeah, we went there when I was a kid, but I think we've already told that story, so we don't have to go into it.
Yeah. It's
But
just,
it's cool.
it's cool.
But yeah, I don't
It's
even think it's
history.
open to the public anymore to go tour it.
That's a bummer.
36 men tried to escape 14 times. So like 36 men, 14 occasions, right? Tried to
Okay.
escape, but all were either caught or didn't survive, except for the 3 inmates that successfully escaped.
Maybe.
They did.
Okay. Sorry, I'm looking confused just because I thought that we don't know for sure.
Well, they successfully escaped.
Yeah, they successfully escaped, but
We don't really, yes, okay, we're going to get into that.
because you
Today's the
said
story
either
of-
they were caught or they didn't make it. So we don't know if these 3 actually made it or not.
Correct. Sorry, I had to readjust myself. The usual Daphne needs
fucking
to fucking...
Daphne. I told her I'm going to duct tape her to the fucking chair.
I have a text of this.
Yeah. Because she just makes so much damn noise.
I can't sit still.
I know. That's why I'm going to have to duct tape you to the chair. I'm going to put a straight jacket on you, and I'm going to duct tape the straight jacket to the chair.
Okay, I'll say next slide, please.
There you go.
When it's time for me to keep reading on. So the 3 men who escaped were Frank Morris. And I just have to say, of course, his name is Frank.
AKA
Frank Morris.
Okay. No, I wanted something cool. They called him the Jet Man.
Nope, he's just Frank. And I just think it's funny that he's named Frank because of Shameless.
Okay.
And maybe Frank was based off of him.
Maybe.
And brothers John and Clarence Anglin.
Okay.
Frank Lee Morris, he was born September 1st.
Frank Lee Morris. Not Frankly Morris. I'm like, Frank Lee Morris.
Frank Lee Morris.
Thank you.
Was born September 1st, 1926, and he was born in Washington, D.C. At the time of his escape, he was 135 pounds.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he was 135 years old. I'm like, damn.
Damn, boy.
You're doing good.
He was 5'8" with hazel eyes. His skin was described as ruddy or ruddy.
No shit, 135 pounds and he's 5'8".
Yeah, he's a little man.
He's skeletal.
Yeah, he's a little man.
Yeah.
Well, he's in prison.
Okay.
He's also trying to plot an escape. They got to be at their lowest weight they can possibly be
He just snuck through the bars.
Basically. Just turned sideways. They're like, where'd he go?
Right.
His hair was partially gray. He had a removed tattoo on his forehead.
Ouch.
Yeah. A scar on his left upper arm and a scar on his left elbow. His known aliases are Carl Cecil Clark, Frank Lane, spelled Frank, and then the lane is Frank is normal. L-A-I-N-E or L-A-N-E. Either one. Yeah. Either kind of lane.
Whatever.
Two
do
spellings.
whatever you want.
Yeah, basically. So he was sentenced to 14 years in Alcatraz on September 19th, 1956 for bank burglary in Slidell, Louisiana.
Oh, I've been there.
Have you really?
Yeah, we've driven through there a couple of times. Your dad will be like, oh my God, remember we turned off that one road and we ate at that one restaurant? I'm like, no. I remember going to Slidell or going through it. I don't remember what road we turned off of to eat at what restaurant. But that's your dad's frame of reference. Food.
Okay, so then John William Anglin was the older of the 2 brothers, born May 2nd, 1930. Just said he's from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know specifically where. Somewhere in Georgia.
Somewhere in Georgia.
At the time of his escape, he was 140 pounds, 5'10".
Jeez.
Yeah.
Another
Blue
skinny
eyes.
mini.
Again, ruddy skin. Is it Rudy or Ruddy?
It's Ruddy.
That's what that sounds better than Rudy skin, ruddy skin. Although neither sounds kind. I don't even know what that means.
I think Rudy skin sounds kind of perky, but Ruddy skin, it's like just not good. It's
sounds
like
dull.
Yeah, it's gray and it's just washed out and
So he's got ugly skin.
yeah,
He's got bad skin,
he's got
basically.
bad skin.
Where did I just? Oh, I was like, I lost my space. Oh, he was partially
Next slide,
gray. Yeah. Next slide, please, my lord. He had a scar on his stomach, on his chest, on his forehead, forehead,
On his forehead also?
and his left forearm. His known aliases were J.W. Anglin or John W. Anglin.
Okay.
He's real fucking original.
I was going to say that's quite a difference.
He was sentenced to 10 years in prison on February 10th, 1958 for armed robbery in Columbia, Alabama. Clarence, his younger brother, Clarence William Anglin, which they both have the same middle name. It's kind of weird, was born May 11th, 1931, again, somewhere in Georgia. So they're like
In an
a year
undisclosed location in Georgia.
Right. At the time of his escape, he was 168 pounds, so he could not turn on his side. Standing at 5'11" with hazel
Still
eyes.
thin, but a little less thin.
Yeah, he's still pretty thin for his height,
Yeah.
but he's
thicker.
he's thicker than the other 2.
Yeah.
He ain't squeezing through no prison bars like they are.
No.
He had hazel eyes, ruddy skin, gray hair, had a scar on his upper right arm, a scar on his upper lip, a tattoo that said Nita on his right arm, and
Like a
one that
chick's?
said Zona on his left arm.
Like Chick Nita, like Anita, or like I need a cigarette.
Nita, Nita.
Okay, like Anita.
yeah, sure, like Anita, but there's no it's just Nita.
Right. Not
And
like
the other one said Zona.
Zona. Okay.
Yes, on his left arm. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison on February 10th, 1958 for an armed robbery in Columbia, Alabama, which I'm assuming he probably did with his brother, and why he got 5 extra years than his brother. I'm not sure. But that's the story as it goes. And then they were all at Alcatraz. And so...
and... That's it.
I just looking at my notes. I have a note that says brothers in life and brothers in January 1960.
Yeah. Brothers what?
I think I meant to write brothers in life and brothers in crime. Instead, I wrote brothers in life and brothers in 1960.
So they were still brothers in 1960.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know how that happened.
Oh, I do.
I do, but
Happens to me all the time. I'm like, wait, what?
I just read that. I was like, yeah, they were still brothers in 1960.
Yeah, they were.
So it's January 1960.
When they were still brothers?
When they were still brothers.
Daphne has this look on her face like she wants me to shrink her head.
I have this look on my face. Like, I don't know what the fuck I wrote here. Oh, Frank. This is what I was talking about. It was Frank.
Frank Lee or Frank Lee?
Frank Lee. Okay. He repeatedly kept trying to escape from other prisons. That's why he was sent to Alcatraz in 1960. And then John came sometime after him. And then Clarence in 1961.
Okay.
That's how they that's the order in which they arrived. But the brothers knew Frank from other prison stints in their lives.
Okay.
So they had already all known each other, right? They're like,
They
hey.
knew each other?
Well, obviously the brothers knew each other. They were brothers. They were born brothers in 1960. They're brothers for life. I totally meant to write brothers in life, brothers in crime. Instead, we got brothers in 1960. Whatever it happens.
It so does.
I was like, what did I write here? It's even handwriting. I can read it perfectly, but what does it say? It's like a dialect. And it's not, because it's my own. Okay, so they were all in adjoining cells, and this is when they plotted their escape with another inmate named Alan West. They worked on this escape for 6 months, and I guess Frank was an actual genius, good IQ, and so he was the one that was concocting the plan.
Okay. Well, and what else do you have to do?
Right, sit around and plot your escape.
Right.
So Alan didn't end up escape. I just hit the microphone. I'm sorry. Alan didn't.
I'm sure that's the least noise that'll be on this fucking thing.
Alan didn't actually escape with them because he didn't have his ventilator grill completely detached like the rest of them when they were like, hey, today's the day we're doing this.
And he's like, fuck, nobody told me today was the day. I've only had 6 months.
Right. I've only had 6 months to remove this from the wall, but I didn't.
Right. Fuck.
Yeah, he only gave me 6 months. I didn't do it. So on June 12th,
So Alan's from the South, I'm guessing.
I don't know much about Alan.
Because you're like, oh, I only had 6 months.
Okay, so on June 12th, 1962, during the early morning bed check, what is up with these notes? I don't smoke weed, but I swear I was high. I'm like, what did I write here? I put, so these guys. Okay, so they escaped. They escaped in the early morning hours or late night on the 11th, early morning of June 12th. They knew that they were gone. Okay. They built dummy heads that they paper mache'd, and they made these out of toilet paper, toothpaste, and human hair from the barber shop.
Yeah, you could totally, when we went, they had them.
Yeah, they were laying in their cells still, they never even cleaned it up.
Right. I mean, I'm sure they had, but...
They put it back.
Yeah, it was a reenactment.
Yeah, and so they had a flesh-like tone of paint on them, and it actually did fool the night guards.
Clearly.
And so no, it did though.
No, I know, because they weren't looking for them right away till the next day, and they're like, "Hey, Frank, you're super skinny. Come and have breakfast."
Right?
And nothing happened.
Frank, time for you to eat.
Right?
You can't be looking like you're gonna squeeze through these bars no more. You can't stand against the wall and we go, "Where's Frank go?
Where's Frank?
Frank, where'd you go, Frank?"
He's hiding behind that cell bar.
So a giant search began. The whole prison went on lockdown. Everyone's like, what the fuck happened? Oh, this is a federal prison. So the FBI is notified right the fuck away. And they get involved in working on the escape. And they looked into any records of the guys, you know, found the previous escape attempts, interviewed the family members, compiled as much evidence as they could. Have you heard from them? No, we haven't heard from them, blah, 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 whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Within 2 days, a packet of letters that were sealed in rubber related to the men were recovered, like on the beach.
Okay.
They washed up. And then later, some paddle-like pieces of wood and bits of a rubber inner tube were found in the water. A homemade life vest was also discovered, washed up on the, I think this is Cronkite. Is that how you say it? Cronkite Beach. But extensive searches did not turn up any of the other items in the area. So they like made these vests, or not vests, they made rafts, basically like homemade rafts out of shit that they stole from the prison.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't like found, but they know that that's what happened because they were like, we're going to do some deep diving. Yo, Alan, you were in on this.
How did they figure out that Alan was in on it? Did he confess?
I think he was probably, trying to do some less time. He's like, I'll be an informant. See this? They tried to bring me up too.
I just forgot to take off my ventilator.
Yeah, right. I just forgot to take off the grill. You were talking like the front of a vent. Basically, that's all he had to remove, and then he didn't.
Right. He only had 6 months.
He only had 6 months to do it. God damn it. So the group began laying plans the previous December when one of them came across some old saw blades. I don't know how they found saw blades. I don't know why they were just laying around. Yeah. So they used a bunch of crude tools, including a homemade drill made from the motor of a broken vacuum cleaner. These guys were like inventive.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
So they each like loosened
and obviously the motor wasn't the broken part of the vacuum cleaner.
Right, obviously.
They could use it for a drill.
They made a homemade drill out of it. So they each like loosened their air vents. So if you look, like if you're imagining just like a regular schmegular prison cell, if you're looking into it, on the left-hand side was the bed. And you can like, I'll post a picture of it, like it's still set up. But then you have like the toilet in the right and on the right. And just on the very back wall on the bottom, like pretty much dead center is this vent. And it doesn't look like it's like that big.
Okay.
So that's
why they had to get down and wait.
Yeah. They, so they were drilling these holes like, you know, to get through, to get out. And they were like removing like little by little sections of the wall. And again, I don't know how people didn't notice. I don't know how guards didn't notice. Like, wasn't there a wall there before?
I don't recall.
But they like hid the holes with whatever, you know, they could do. They were like, oh, I've always had that old shirt hanging there. I'm not covering up anything suspicious.
No.
That cardboard cutout of Ashton Kutcher has always been on the wall.
I was going to go with Betty Boop for the time period, but sure, Ashton Kutcher.
Wasn't even born yet.
Nope.
Behind the cells was an unguarded utility corridor. And so they made their way down to this corridor. They climbed to the roof of their cell block inside the building where they set up a secret workshop. So they were like going in and out. Yeah.
That's awesome, actually.
They were taking turns watching for guards in the evenings before they lost count. And then they used a variety of stolen...
Before they lost count of what?
Of guards.
Before they lost count?
Of how many guards passed by? I don't know.
Okay.
They were just like switching turns, and then they were like, they lost count, and then they would switch.
Okay, gotcha.
So until they were tired, I don't know. It just until they lost count.
Okay. They're like, I'm too fucking tired of counting anymore.
Right, let me get back to plotting our escape. So they used a variety of stolen and donated. I don't know who's donating the materials. They're like, oh, you got to borrow soap? Sure, I guess I'll give you this razor blade. You know, I guess it's like, gold.
The barter system.
Yeah, the donated material system.
Donated material system.
To build and hide what they needed to escape. So using all these things, more than 50 raincoats that they stole.
50 raincoats?
Yeah, to build the raft.
No, I get it, but like, why are there... Well, I guess because it's super rainy.
Yeah. in the island, on the island.
Yeah, I just
In
don't
the
know
bay.
how the prison people don't like notice that there are 50 fucking raincoats missing.
Right.
That seems like a lot of raincoats to be like,
It says they were either stolen or gathered, but I feel like gathered is also stolen.
Right.
So,
Well, it's like, didn't we have 40 raincoats in this cupboard yesterday and now we only have 12?
right, where are the rest of the raincoats?
Right.
So they stitched them together and vulcanized, quote unquote, by the hot steam pieces, like the pipes within the prison. And they saw this from an idea in a magazine that they should make it like that.
Okay.
They also built wooden
Escape
paddles.
Digest.
Right. Prison Escape Digest.
Yes.
Inmate's Life. Escape of the Year edition. They also built wooden paddles and converted a musical instrument into a tool to inflate the raft. Like, Frank was on it.
Yeah.
He was a smart guy. If only he used his power for good. At the time, they were looking for like a way out of the building while they're plotting this escape. So the ceiling was 30 foot high, but it wasn't that great because of the network of pipes. But they instead decided it would be a good idea to just climb the pipes. So they're just inventive, basically, is my point.
Okay.
This is all really, I feel like I need a blueprint of the prison to keep explaining this.
I think you're going to have to post one.
I will post one.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I feel like the words I'm saying out loud are getting even lost on myself because I've seen the blueprint. So I know what I'm talking about because I've seen it, but I'm like, as I'm saying it out loud, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm just going to have to post a blueprint and then have like a diagram.
Yes.
They'll have their handiwork laid out in front of us.
Yeah.
So Frank and John
So this will
and
all
Clarence.
make sense when you put it together with the Instagram post.
With the Instagram, yeah. Look at the Instagram post. They got into the corridor. They gathered their gear for the escape. They climbed up the pipes, right, through the ventilators, got out to the prison roof, shimmied down the bakery smokestack.
The bakery smokestack?
Yeah, at the rear of the cell house that they were in.
Mm-hmm.
Then they climbed over the fence, and then they snuck to the northeast shore of the island, and they got on the raft.
Okay.
Yeah, and they left, and they were never seen again.
That is crazy. Okay, tell me where are we going next?
Okay, so did they die? Did they get eaten by sharks? Did they drown? Did they make it back to land and change their identities and live other lives? Who the fuck really knows? The FBI says about it, if they crossed the bay, they would have had more than a mile swim from Alcatraz to Angel Island. But with the strong currents, the bay water conditions, it was cold. The odds were against them. But apparently Whitey Bulger weighed into them and said, hey, you guys can get used to the conditions. So who knows?
Right. Because it's June, but it's still fucking cold.
Yeah. It's cold water.
Yeah, that water's cold.
Pacific water.
That water's cold. Well, it's warmer further south, but that's up north.
That's north.
Yeah.
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 North.
North.
So if they made it out by land, according to Alan West, the plan was for them to steal clothes and a car, but they never had any thefts reported on land. And do you think there would have been? Because there's it's a pretty high profile thing.
Right,
you know, if
there's
my
a
car was
manhunt.
stolen, I'd report it.
Right.
You know,
Especially if you know that they're escaped criminals.
yeah. Oh yeah, because by the next morning, everyone was in the know, and I'm sure they made public announcements. You know, again, they were contacting the families. Another theory they had, or another thing they had to say about it, the FBI, was that if they had any help, they couldn't substantiate it from the families. Like if the family was like, "Oh, we'll come here," you know,
Right.
you have a safe house here.
I haven't seen them.
Right. They also the families proved that they had no financial support given to the men.
Okay.
So they were able to, substantiate the family wasn't helping, basically. So for 17 years after it, they worked on the case, basically to come to the decision that the men had probably died in the water. They didn't make it back to land. They drowned. They got eaten by sharks. Something happened where, we have some recovered pieces, but they died.
I just want to know.
Well, we have theories.
I know, but I want to know. For real. But we don't know.
We have a pretty for certain, actually.
Oh, cool.
Not for certain. But we have a
most likely case
pretty
scenario.
strong theory that came about in 2023.
Ooh.
But let me build it up to that.
Please do.
So I haven't heard any theories about Frank, though, but the brothers I've heard about, okay?
Okay.
So their mother apparently received flowers every day, or not every day, every Mother's Day until she died. that had no senders, like
Okay.
no return to sender, like no, they don't know where it came from.
Love you, Mom.
Yeah, nothing like that. But she just got flowers every Mother's Day.
Okay.
And no one knew where they came from. And also, she would get a Christmas card for the next 3 years that was signed by them. Yeah. So that's kind of suspicious, obviously.
Yeah, that's either somebody fucking with her or they made it.
Right, but it's only 3 years.
Right.
So the families all like, we don't necessarily think that they actually died, but we haven't seen them.
Right.
Like I said, the FBI was able to actually substantiate that they hadn't seen them. So, but I don't know why they didn't like backtrack on like the florist that they came from. Like,
well, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
but they didn't.
Yeah. Or like the postmark on the Christmas cards.
Yeah, they didn't though.
Yeah.
So when their mom passed away, there were reportedly 2 very tall people at the funeral that were wearing heavy, heavy, heavy amounts of makeup compared to the rest of the crowd.
But they weren't that tall.
Tall compared to the crowd
Okay.
of people that was at the
Because
funeral.
wasn't one of them was 5'11" and the other one was
5'10", I think.
Okay. Sort
5'10" and 5'11".
5 tallish.
5 tallish, yeah. Apparently tall compared to the rest of the family and friends
Like
and
if we
whomever was
were
at
there.
her funeral. Yeah. Yeah, if we were there, yeah, they would look tall. If it was a bunch of us-sized people. And wearing heavy makeup, and then they just vanished into like thin air. So people are like, was that them in disguise? You know? And another person who was a family childhood friend was visiting Rio de Janeiro in Brazil in 1975 and said that he saw them and they talked. And he came forward with this in like the 90s. But he was like, oh, we talked and we hung out. We actually took a picture. Here's the picture.
Was it substantiated that it was them?
So in 2023, with technology the way it is, we have this picture now, right? And it looks like, again, clothes from the 70s. There's like a tattoo. How I said that one of the brothers, Clarence,
Nita
I think.
and Zona.
Yeah, and one of them was like above the wrist. There's in the picture, you can see a dark tattoo above the wrist. And so basically what he was saying, this guy in this thing that I watched, the technology that they have developed now, it's like how like if, you know, you go rob a bank or if somebody robs a bank and you're there, whatever, you're an eyewitness, they do a photo lineup, you pick out the person. This new technology, you could give them the picture, you know, they have the age progression stuff now too, but they like gave them their pictures and like their descriptions, all the things, and the computer system was like, did a comparison of them, and it was like pretty high chances it was actually them.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they're together, of course, too.
Right.
And one of them had darker hair than the other. You know, like I said, how their hair is like partially gray when I read the description of when they went missing. One brother had darker hair. One brother had lighter hair. That checked out in the picture. Like, yeah, the tattoos.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so that happened in 2023. Now, there's the letter that came in 2013.
Okay.
Okay, so I need to first and foremost say it's real. I've seen the letter, it's online, but it's really hard to read it. Like all the posting quality of the photo, like resolution, it's really hard to read. So I only have snippets of it that other people have reported on because I can't read it because it's horrible. Like it's hard to read it.
I've seen things like that where you're like, what the fuck does this
Right. Why would you even post this if nobody can read it?
Right.
So this letter came in 2013 to the San Francisco Police Department, and it said, "My name is John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962 with my brother Clarence and Frank Morris. I'm 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer. Yes, we all made it, but barely. If you announce on TV that I will be promised to first go to jail for no more than a year and get medical attention, I will write back to you to let you know exactly where I am. This is no joke." And then somewhere in the letter, he claimed that I saw both 2008 and 2005. So I don't know which one's real, but that Frank died in either 2005 or 2008. And then that Clarence died 3 years after the fact. So whether he died in 2008 or 2011, I don't know. But he died in one or the other. And that's all I've got.
I like it.
I like the suspense.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because obviously I've heard of that escape, that was like the one that nobody knew what happened. But I never heard any of the 2023 stuff or the 2013 letter. I never heard any of that.
Yeah, they had like old FBI agents like who weren't on the case working the case in 2023 again with just the technological updates and stuff. Oh, and the handwriting experts substantiated that the letter could be theirs. It could also not be theirs. like compared to all the handwriting samples that they'd ever had from any of the 3 men.
Right.
So we don't really know.
The older you get, your handwriting.
Yeah. They couldn't verify
changes.
it, but they also weren't like, it's 100% ruled out that it's not any of the 3 of them that wrote this letter.
Right.
So yeah, that's it. That's all.
Okay.
So we just have a bunch of theories really that we're left with. But the 2023 information sounds pretty promising.
It does.
Yeah, that they probably did make it, and at this point, probably dead. If the letter's true, 2 of them are dead. The third one, if he had cancer, he's probably out now. Because that was in 2013.
Yeah.
That was 12 years ago. That's crazy.
That's kind of cool, though. I mean, not cool that they have cancer and died. Just like if they did make it, and like, I don't know, not that I'm pro prison break, but of all the people that tried to escape from Alcatraz, and
3 of them did it, and no one ever knew if they made it or not, but they did. Yeah, that would be
the
pretty
mystery.
Cool. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not pro, let's all escape from prison. Are you looking at my socks?
Uh-huh.
It says mood. I am Groot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I'm not pro prison break either. But I think it's really interesting that, all these people were either gunned down, like the 36 people that previously attempted. I don't know if they're included in the 36 of the escape attempts or if it's 39 including them. I think it's 36 with the inclusion of them. So 33 of them either got busted and got brought back, or drowned to death, or got shot.
Shot? By the prison guards, right?
By the prison guards, yeah.
Because they would see them escaping and be like, oh no, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then sharks would say, yummy!
Right. And I mean, I saw,
those are shark-infested waters up there.
Yeah.
It's like a transient, it's like a migration path for sharks. And great whites and stuff up there.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not the shark bite capital of the world.
No.
But it's
a migration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love sharks.
I know you do.
They're so cool. You're like, yeah, they're great.
They're pretty, well, they are cool.
Yeah, they're very cool. I love sharks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've got, Mom.
Okay.
I'm glad you liked it.
I did.
I didn't want to throw too much out about including Alcatraz in this part, like the history of Alcatraz, because there's ghost stories now. We've got a lot of really famous prisoners that were there. We've got
Alvin Karpis, who I never heard of.
Yeah, the longest standing Alcatraz prisoner. Yeah, there's just a lot happening there that I feel like if I tried to include the escape in the same episode, it would be a lot.
I definitely think the escape was a standalone episode, so that was a wise choice.
Yeah, well, we talked about it because I couldn't find, a lot of the information that I have, either some of this came from ID Discovery with the 2023 info, which is, not really a reliable source either because it's a journalist.
Right, media.
Right. But a lot of it came from the FBI's resources, which is also, Yeah. But if we're comparing reliable sources from Wikipedia to FBI, that's the most reliable source.
Yeah, you got to go with the FBI most likely.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the Alvin Karpis episode,
the FBI is not always truthin'.
Right. Exactly.
J. Edgar Hoover, we're looking at you.
Right. In which outfit you're wearing.
Right. But yeah, that's all I've got. I'm glad you liked it.
I appreciate it. I do. I did. Especially.
I did.
I did. I still do.
Good. I'm glad because you did. So I'm glad you still do.
Yeah, very interesting because I
think Alcatraz is fascinating.
I think so too. It's such a cool place. I get why it would be closed though, because probably people fuck with shit all the time and they're always like, don't take anything. Oh, I thought you meant why it got closed down. No, well, I know why. It was too expensive to keep operating.
Yeah, federal prisons at that time. I saw a thing that said federal prisons at that time, which we'll talk about obviously in the Alcatraz episode as well. We're operating at about $3 a day per prisoner. Mm-hmm. It was $10 a day per prisoner there.
Yeah, it was too expensive.
It was way too much resources going into that prison. Yeah. Even though it was the most secure federal prison, but it also wasn't, a maximum amount of space that they could use on that island either.
Right, it was small and very, very costly.
I think the Supermax in Colorado and Florence is the most secure federal prison now.
Even more than Leavenworth?
I think so.
We'll have to look that up.
I think so. Well, that's where the Unabomber is.
Yeah, and that's where Timothy McVeigh was.
That's not the Unabomber though, is it?
No. The Unabomber is Ted Kaczynski. Timothy McVeigh was put to death.
I think the guys that blew up the Boston Marathon, I think they're there too. I think the Aurora Theater shooting guy, I think he's there too.
Wasn't El Chapo there for a minute?
Yeah, he was actually in Florence. Yeah, that one's crazy. I've seen a lot of shit on that. That one's nuts.
Any hoodles.
Any hoots.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And we will continue the Alcatraz saga.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking last night when I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep between 3 and 5 a.m., which is awesome and I love it. And I try to turn my brain off, but it doesn't. I was thinking about going back to the United States of what the fuck.
You should. I was thinking about the Key West stuff too.
Yeah, I was also thinking about that. But then I was also thinking in the scheme of episodes, how the suckage rate. And
oh, I know. That's the thing is we need to look into our stats of like what episodes are doing the best. Like the fucking creepypasta episode. The
creepypasta.
The Abigail.
Oh, I thought creepypasta.
Creepypasta is a story.
Oh.
And that's the Abigail Project is a story.
Oh. Okay.
And it's not a story like it's for sure. We have a whole episode on it. Go listen to it if you're that curious.
And it's
that's our number one episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's basically just me reading off stories of things that people have posted online in regards to potentially Area 51 or not.
Potentially or not. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah. You can follow us on Instagram at That's Disturbing Podcast. You can send us a case request there, or you can send it to our Gmail, That's disturbingpodcast@gmail.com. And we would really love to hear from people. So you should start talking to us.
Yeah. That'd
Yay.
be
We
great.
only talk to each other and Lindsay.
That's right. Our 3 listeners, Lindsay, Vienna, and Lindsay.
Yeah.
And Vienna doesn't have an Instagram, so.
I think Heather listens to us pretty frequently, too.
Heather does listen to us pretty frequently. I forgot about Heather. I didn't forget about Heather, but because I say that there are 3 listeners, I can't change it to 4 now because we have a Vienna sandwich with Lindsay, Vienna, Lindsay.
Yeah, we do. We have Vienna sandwich and Lindsay squared.
Yes, Lindsay squared, Vienna sandwich. But now we could put like a toothpick through it, which is Heather.
Yeah, Heather's the toothpick. Yay.
I'm sure Heather would be happy
Dinner
to hear
Heather.
she's the toothpick. Go toothpick.
Go toothpick dinner, Heather.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Daph.
you. Bye-bye.